Picture this. The Arizona dream of endless sunshine, desert views, and booming suburbs is about to turn into a nightmare. For years, home prices here defied gravity, doubling in less than a decade, fueled by investors, out-of-state buyers, and builders who couldn't pour concrete fast enough. But in 2025, the cracks are already spreading. Sellers are slashing tens of thousands off asking prices, inventories are swelling like a tidal wave, and families are drowning under mortgage payments that eat half their paychecks. If this slide doesn't stop, by 2026 Arizona won't just cool, it will crash, brutally and without mercy. Number 10. Pinal County. Pinal County is the ticking time bomb of Arizona real estate. In 2020, homes here were the definition of affordable. Buyers were closing on brand new houses for $225,000 to $250,000. Fast forward to the peak in 2021, 2022, and those exact same houses were listed for $375,000 to $390,000, a jump of more than 60% in just 2 years. But here's the catch. The local economy never caught up. The median household income in Pinal sits around $70,000 a year, meaning a family's monthly budget can't realistically handle a $2,700 mortgage payment on a 30-year loan at today's 6.9% interest rate. That's before adding property taxes and insurance, which can push carrying costs past $3,200 per month. The market is already wobbling. Inventory across Pinal has surged nearly 45% higher than last year, especially in sprawling subdivisions outside Maricopa and Casa Grande. What used to sell in 10 days now lingers for 90-plus days. Builders who once had waiting lists are now dangling desperate offers, $30,000 in rate buydowns, free pools, even HOA fee credits for 2 years, just to keep buyers walking through the door. Resale listings tell the same story. Homes that traded for $380,000 in late 2022 are now sitting unsold at $335,000, and price cuts of $50,000 to $70,000 are becoming routine. The water crisis adds fuel to this fire. State regulators have already restricted new subdivision approvals in parts of Pinal due to insufficient groundwater supplies projected over the next 100 years. That's like telling developers to pack their bags. Future growth is capped, and buyers know it. Investors who rushed in during the boom are now offloading at losses, creating a wave of panic listings. If this price erosion continues through 2025, by 2026, the correction won't be gentle. It will be brutal. Pinal County could see values sink another 20% or more, leaving thousands of homeowners underwater, both literally and financially. Number 9. Yuma. Yuma, often called the sunniest city in America, is about to face a housing storm. Back in 2019, the average home in Yuma sold for just $185,000, perfect for snowbirds and retirees hunting for bargains. By 2022, those same homes skyrocketed to $320,000 to $340,000, a staggering 70% leap in only 3 years. But here's the problem. Yuma's economy isn't built to sustain those numbers. With a median household income of $57,000, the math doesn't work. A $330,000 home at a 6.9% mortgage rate equals a monthly payment around $2,400 before taxes and insurance. For many locals working in agriculture, border security, or low-wage retail, that's half their paycheck gone the second the mortgage clears. The cracks are already showing. As of 2025, inventory has ballooned nearly 35% year over year. Homes that once sparked bidding wars now sit unsold for months. Sellers are hacking off $20,000 to $40,000 from asking prices just to compete with new construction offering buydowns and incentives. Retirees, who make up nearly 18% of Yuma's population, are reconsidering this market too. Rising insurance premiums and scorching utility bills, electricity often topping $400 a month in summer, are driving some to cut their losses and sell. Yuma's heavy reliance on seasonal residents makes it especially vulnerable. When snowbirds skip town and buyers tighten their wallets, the market goes eerily quiet. That silence turns deadly in a downturn. Already, houses that sold for $345,000 in 2022 are being relisted at $295,000 with no takers. If the current downtrend continues, by 2026, Yuma could easily see values plunge 25% below peak levels, leaving latecomers holding the bag. For a city built on sunshine, its housing future looks anything but bright. It looks like a desert storm ready to wipe out equity overnight. Number 8. Safford. Safford, tucked in Graham County, feels like a small-town gem, but its housing market is becoming a ticking time bomb. In 2019, a cozy 3-bedroom home could be bought for $150,000. By 2022, values shot up to nearly $270,000, an 80% gain in just 3 years. That kind of growth would make sense in Phoenix or Tucson, but not here. Safford's population barely breaks 10,000 people, with a median household income of just $53,000. When locals working at copper mines or small-town services try to finance a $270,000 mortgage at 7% interest, they're staring down payments of nearly $2,000 a month, far beyond what most household budgets can handle. The imbalance is glaring. Safford doesn't have the kind of job growth or in-migration to keep demand high. Inventory has climbed more than 30% in the past year, and homes now linger on the market for 90 to 120 days. Some desperate sellers are slashing prices by $25,000 to $35,000 in a single cut. New buyers, spooked by rising interest rates, are waiting out the storm rather than diving in. That leaves flippers and investors, who piled in during the frenzy, now panicking as they realize they overpaid in a market with shallow buyer pools. Even utilities here add pressure. Power bills routinely crack $300 in summer, eating into disposable income. When you combine shrinking affordability with stalled demand, you've got the perfect setup for a steep drop. Already, homes that once sold for $280,000 are now listed at $235,000, and still no offers are coming. If these declines persist, Safford could see prices fall another 20% to 30% by 2026. For homeowners who thought their small-town investment was safe, the reality is harsher. Safford's housing bubble is running on borrowed time, and the clock is nearly out. Number 7. Lake Havasu City. Lake Havasu City is famous for spring breakers, retirees, and of course that imported London Bridge, but behind the party vibe lurks a market teetering on collapse. In 2020, the median home price here was a comfortable $260,000. By the peak of 2022, that number exploded to nearly $470,000, an almost 80% surge fueled by second home buyers, Californians fleeing high costs, and investors chasing short-term rental profits. But today, in 2025, cracks are undeniable. With mortgage rates hovering at 6.8%, a $470,000 home translates into a $3,200 monthly payment, and that's before HOA fees, taxes, and insurance. For a city with a median income around $61,000, those numbers are laughably unsustainable. The rental gold rush is reversing. STR short-term rental saturation has left hundreds of Airbnb and VRBO properties sitting empty during off-peak months. Investors are panic listing homes after realizing nightly rates can't cover rising costs. Inventory has climbed by more than 50% compared to last year, the steepest jump in Northwest Arizona. Sellers who once bragged about instant offers are now chopping $40,000 to $60,000 off listings with no bites. A waterfront property that commanded $550,000 in 2022 is now struggling to fetch $460,000, and even those deals come with buyer concessions. Utility bills add more pain. Summer electric costs can exceed $500 a month when temperatures soar past 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Add in high insurance premiums tied to flood and wildfire risks, and the affordability picture collapses. By 2026, if trends continue, Lake Havasu could face a 30% nosedive from its peak values, dragging second home owners underwater financially. What was once marketed as a desert paradise could quickly morph into a foreclosure hotspot. The bridge may have been built to last, but this city's housing boom looks ready to crumble into the Colorado River. Number 6. Nogales. Nogales, perched right on the US-Mexico border, is the kind of market that looked like a steal during the pandemic frenzy, but now stands out as a house of cards. In 2019, you could find a modest three-bedroom here for $140,000. By 2022, those same houses were suddenly fetching $260,000 to $280,000, nearly doubling in value in just 3 years. The problem? Nogales doesn't have the income base to justify that spike. Median household income in Santa Cruz County hovers around $48,000, which simply cannot support a mortgage of nearly $2,000 a month at today's 6.9% rates. That's before adding in property taxes, insurance, and rising utility bills. Signs of stress are everywhere. Inventory is up nearly 40% year over year, and homes are now taking an average of 120 days to sell, triple the pace of 2021. Sellers who once dreamed of cashing out big are instead trimming $20,000 to $50,000 off their asking prices, with many still sitting idle. Investors who rushed in hoping Nogales would become a rental goldmine are discovering reality. Demand is too thin. The rental market is stagnant, with vacancy rates climbing past 10%, leaving many landlords underwater. Nogales also carries a unique risk: its dependency on cross-border trade. Any slowdown in US-Mexico commerce, whether through tariffs, border delays, or economic downturns, ripples straight into this city's job market. Without steady economic engines to prop up growth, those inflated home prices are already wobbling. By 2026, if trends don't reverse, Nogales could easily see values plunge another 25%, wiping out nearly all of the pandemic-era equity gains. What once looked like a border town bargain may soon feel like a trap, with homeowners watching their property values sink faster than the desert sun. Number 5. Sierra Vista. Sierra Vista, home to Fort Huachuca, is a market that's heavily tied to the military, and that makes its housing sector uniquely volatile. Back in 2020, a single-family home could be picked up for $180,000. By 2022, prices surged to nearly $310,000, a nearly 70% increase fueled by outside investors and military relocations. But here's the rub. The city's median income is just $63,000, and with today's mortgage rates at 6.8%, monthly payments on a $310,000 home hover around $2,200 to $2,400. For many local households, especially those not tied to the base, those numbers are crippling. Already the slowdown is clear. Listings have spiked 35% higher compared to last year, and homes that once sold in bidding wars are now marooned for 100 days or more. Price reductions averaging $25,000 to $45,000 are becoming the norm, with builders offering military buyers incentives just to keep sales moving. Even rental demand, once steady base turnover, has softened. Vacancy rates are climbing, and landlords are discovering that rents topping $1,600 a month simply aren't sustainable in this market. Another looming shadow: Sierra Vista's reliance on defense contracts. If federal spending shifts or troop assignments move elsewhere, the housing demand here could collapse overnight. Add in rising insurance premiums and utility bills, pushing $350 a month in peak summer, and affordability evaporates. By 2026, Sierra Vista could face a brutal correction, with home values sinking 20% to 30% below their highs. For homeowners banking on military stability to carry this market forever, the reality is clear. Even a base town isn't bulletproof when the economics stop adding up. Number 4. Payson. Payson, nestled in the Mogollon Rim, has long been a retreat for retirees and second home buyers chasing cooler weather. But beneath the postcard scenery lies a dangerously inflated housing market. In 2020, the median home price was around $250,000. By 2022, that number rocketed to nearly $440,000, a staggering 75% jump driven largely by out-of-towners fleeing Phoenix. Yet Payson's median household income is barely $57,000, and local wages in hospitality and retail cannot support the carrying costs of a $500,000 home. At current 7% mortgage rates, Payments on a $440,000 loan run close to $3,000 a month, far outstripping what local buyers can handle. The market's fragility is showing. Inventory has surged 50% year over year, and days on market have ballooned from just 20 days in 2021 to 110-plus days in 2025. Sellers who once bragged about multiple offers are now hacking off $40,000 to $70,000 from listings. A cabin that went for $475,000 in 2022 is now being quietly shopped around for $390,000 with no serious bites. What makes Payson especially vulnerable is its heavy reliance on retirees and vacation homeowners. Rising property taxes, soaring insurance premiums tied to wildfire risk, and utility bills nearing $400 monthly are pushing many of these buyers out. Short-term rental demand has also cooled, leaving investors bleeding cash. If the current slide continues, by 2026, Payson could easily see a 30% collapse from its peak, leaving behind a trail of over-leveraged homeowners and vacant second homes. The mountain air might be crisp, but the housing market here is suffocating under its own inflated weight. Number 3. Tucson. Tucson has always lived in the shadow of Phoenix. Its housing market is shaping up to be just as fragile. Back in 2019, the median home price in Tucson hovered around $200,000. By mid-2022, that number had exploded to $360,000 to $375,000, a staggering 75% increase in barely 3 years. The problem? Tucson's economy simply doesn't have the horsepower to sustain that surge. With a median household income of roughly $57,000, financing a $370,000 house at today's 7% mortgage rates requires monthly payments of nearly $2,500 before taxes, insurance, and utilities. For families making under $60,000, that's a financial trap. The warning lights are already flashing. Inventory in Tucson has swelled nearly 50% compared to a year ago. Listings that used to vanish in a week now sit stale for months. Sellers are dropping prices by $25,000 to $50,000, yet buyers are still reluctant. Investors who once treated Tucson as an Airbnb goldmine are now bailing out, spooked by oversaturation and declining bookings. And retirees, who form a sizable slice of Tucson's population, are second-guessing staying put as insurance premiums climb and healthcare costs eat into fixed incomes. Add in Tucson's higher-than-average crime rate and rising property taxes, and the affordability equation gets worse. A house that sold for $380,000 in 2022 is now languishing at $325,000 with no serious offers. That's a 15% dip already baked in, and the slope looks steeper going forward. If trends hold, Tucson could see values drop another 20% to 25% by 2026, pushing thousands of homeowners underwater. For a city that markets itself as artsy, affordable, and sun-soaked, the truth is brutal. Tucson is on the edge of a housing cliff, and the fall is coming fast. Number 2. Mesa. Mesa, Arizona's third-largest city, is in the middle of a housing correction that could turn brutal by 2026. In 2019, the median home price sat around $250,000. At the peak in 2022, Mesa's values shot to $430,000 to $450,000, a meteoric rise of more than 75% in 3 years. But here's the trap. Mesa's median household income is about $76,000, which sounds decent, until you realize a $440,000 mortgage at 6.9% interest equates to $3,100 a month with taxes and insurance. That's nearly half of the average family's take-home pay. Today, cracks are everywhere. Inventory has jumped by nearly 60% year over year, flooding the market with options buyers no longer want at peak prices. Homes once snapped up in days now sit unsold for 90 to 120 days. Price cuts of $50,000 to $70,000 are becoming normal in neighborhoods once considered untouchable. Builders, once giddy with demand, are offering desperate incentives: $25,000 rate buydowns, free upgrades, even cash rebates. Investors who chased Mesa as a rental market are dumping properties after realizing rents can't keep up with inflated mortgage payments. And here's the kicker. Mesa has one of the highest foreclosure risks in Arizona. Families who bought at the 2022 peak are already underwater, and as values slide, more will be forced to walk away. A house that sold for $450,000 2 years ago is now struggling to get offers at $390,000, with some listings lingering below $370,000. If the trend continues, Mesa could see another 20% plunge by 2026, putting thousands of households in negative equity. For a city that once sold itself as Phoenix's affordable suburb, the brutal truth is this: Mesa's affordability is gone, and its housing bubble is bursting in slow motion. Number 1. Phoenix. Phoenix, the beating heart of Arizona's housing boom, is now ground zero for what could be one of the harshest crashes in the country. In 2019, the median home price was about $275,000. By 2022, Phoenix shocked the nation by climbing to nearly $475,000 to $500,000, an 80% surge that left affordability in the dust. With a median household income of roughly $74,000, financing a $500,000 home at today's 7% rates means payments of nearly $3,400 a month, not including insurance and taxes. That's financial insanity for the average Phoenix family. The slowdown is undeniable. Inventory across Maricopa County, where Phoenix dominates, has spiked over 65% compared to last year. Homes that sparked wild bidding wars in 2021 are now sitting for months, with sellers hacking off $60,000 to $100,000 in price reductions. Builders are practically begging buyers with incentives worth tens of thousands. Investors who once turned Phoenix into an Airbnb mecca are bailing as rental saturation and higher regulation squeeze profits. Phoenix also faces unique risks: skyrocketing property taxes, ballooning insurance premiums due to heat and flooding concerns, and utility bills that can smash past $500 a month in summer. A home that commanded $495,000 in 2022 is now struggling to get offers at $420,000, and that's just the beginning. If this correction keeps pace, Phoenix could see an additional 25% decline by 2026, wiping out billions in home equity. For years, Phoenix was the poster child of Arizona's housing dream: sunshine, growth, and seemingly endless demand. But dreams are fragile. The truth is brutal. Phoenix's meteoric rise has created a cliff-edge scenario, and 2026 could be the year it plunges into a historic housing collapse.